My mum left when I was 13. Her and my dad were both suicidal their entire lives, so she was hanging on by a thread. Hurt people hurt people. People might not feel comfortable doing all this vulnerability stuff. I've been starting to address the emotions underneath, the root cause of why the fuck am I so afraid of getting hurt?
There we go.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Claps.
Yeah.
So Ryan Magic, welcome to the Make Men Great Again podcast. This is our second ever time interviewing. We said that before. What the fuck has been going on in your life? You've got long hair. You look like a man now. You've grown up. That was years ago. You've changed. You've some things are the same. Like, talk to me. Where have you been? What have you been doing? And we're going to talk about some men stuff today. And I see you doing so much work, both within yourself and just so much brotherhood stuff. I saw you just traveled somewhere. You just spoke somewhere. Talk us quickly through that, and then give us a backstory.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me on, dude.
Pleasure.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
So recently the last 18 months, I've been deeply excavating my fear of intimacy. It's been the biggest theme.
Like he's diving straight in. I love it.
That's what's relevant.
He doesn't fuck around, people.
That's what's relevant.
Yeah, awesome.
So the last 18 months, getting into a relationship with a woman that was healthy enough for
you to be able to go through that.
For me to be able to bring out the truth of the vulnerability underneath the cover-ups that I've had in every relationship up until that point of being massively distant, disassociated, and controlling.
And how did that, for people that don't know, like, what did that look like for you at the time? How did that play out? I know, you were actually one of my first coaches back when you were doing, would you call it business coaching?
It was business coaching,
you were a very young, successful entrepreneur. That was your outlet of avoidance, was it? If you were to, like, in this present moment, look back, like, what's your psychoanalysis of that?
If I psychoanalyze myself, there's like two different really intense parts that I have built-in insecurity from my upbringing. One being achieving for self-worth.
Yes.
Because my dad was very strict and he gave me affirmation if I was at an extreme level.
Yes.
And what that looked like in a little snapshot is I remember playing football one season and I would give so much effort in every quarter of every football match that I would cry and like be hyperventilating at the end of every quarter. And then I get to the end of the match, feel like, holy crap, did I do well enough? Anticipating my dad's feedback in the car where he had a big list of different things that he's taken notes of. Yeah. And I got to the end of the season feeling like I'd had the shittest season of my life and crying at the end of the season because my self-worth, the love, and my affirmation all tied up into that.
Your father's acceptance and
critique, analysis. And then at the end of that season, feeling that I had the shittest season, I ended up winning like the best player in the entire league by 30% better than anyone else from a votes perspective.
Wow. We're going to talk about a lot of things today, but that just stands out to me because what just kind of came through from is like, how many people do you think are living life right now and on the scoreboard, they're actually doing pretty good, but inside they feel like they're losing?
I don't think life's about a scoreboard.
I know, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying
just objectively.
I'm saying objectively, if you look at, I'll give you an example. I was talking to someone the other day on the podcast. I can't remember who it was. But I think maybe it was Pat. He was just saying he had a discrepancy between how others viewed him and what success he was creating. A success, I just mean for that person. Like if you want to be good in a relationship, well, that could be a success, right? So he was doing things that were good. Like you were doing things that were good in relation to sport. There was a score. You won something by a bunch of 30 points at the end of the season, right? Mm-hmm. So if we were to use that as a loose example for life and the things that people want to create, you wanted to do well in that. People want to do well in life, but they could actually be doing well externally and they're even doing the things that they think they want to do, but then internally they're not actually feeling like they're winning at things. They don't feel like they're actually, no matter how much that they achieve, they never feel like they're feeling that sense of worth.
Yeah. I think most people in society because we get brought up and raised in a society that's based on scoring,
Yes.
which is very
External.
quantitative. Like we are in high school, primary school, we play sport.
A's, B's.
All of this is based on numbers, metrics, performance. Whereas in a tribe, if you
Yes.
grow up in the way that we were designed as human beings to live in a tribe,
Communities.
as mammals, growing up, all mammal animals thrive in a group. They rely on the group, the tribe, the herd, whatever, to be able to survive. And we were brought up to be able to be a functioning member of the society, of that team. And that's very different. That's qualitative.
Yes. Yes.
And then society is built quantitatively. And if we loop this back into the relationship stuff, most people in relationship, especially masculine energy, which society is more masculine in nature than feminine, we're looking at everything through the lens of good or bad, right or wrong,
Yes.
A or B, A or F.
We're labeling it.
Yeah.
And whereas everything, would you agree, is just neutral, and then it's when we start to label things, that's then where things go wrong. In a simplistic.
Yeah, I think the lens, I feel like most people are innately reacting because they're in a fight or flight response because society is so intense, life is so intense, and everyone's normalized, society's normalized a hyper stimulating environment that we get put into fight or flight. And that fight or flight response is one that puts us into the paradigm of good or bad, right or wrong, because we're trying to make sure that we're okay and lovable, and we get stuck in this paradigm because we're in fear. We're in a fear response most of the time, and it looks just like coping or normal, like someone walking down the street, going to the cafe in the morning, fight or flight. Someone on the tram on the way to work that they don't enjoy their job, fight or flight. People are in fight or flight reactively every day, and it's just normalized.
I live like that literally up until the last 5 years, not realizing that the fight or flight version of me, I thought that's who I was, because I'd been like, to quote kind of Joe Dispenza, like I thought that was the version, I thought that was me until I realized, oh, fuck, there's this whole other version of me once I started meditating and doing things like that. So just to recap, society, do you believe it's society that has programmed us to have these, okay, this is what's good or bad, that it's embedded? Do you think that's where it stems from?
Yeah, I think it's embedded. I don't think it's like an intentional programming from an elite group of people designed to destruct society. I just think this is what happens when our human brain that is designed to move towards, like, let's say, satiating food, because in the wild we would need to,
of course,
any
salt,
food we can get, we go towards
and
it.
fats are the most.
Yeah, and we're also designed for as social creatures to be liked, lovable, and then all of a sudden we're just stacked into a massive society, a massive community, a massive city that our brains kind of like, we're learning how to function with this brain that's meant to be around 50 people for your entire lifetime. And right now, if we looked out the window here in the city, we can see like 5,000 in like 1 second. So our brain's kind of like hasn't learned to cope in a healthy way. And there's all these shadowy negative effects that come from this, the effect of a human brain in this like crazy environment we've created through evolution.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
I want to rewind back to what you were saying before when we first started this. You said right now, the season that, if that's the way you would use the terminology, but the season that you're kind of going through right now, what was it? What were the words that you said? Something about intimacy.
A fear of intimacy.
A fear is intimacy.
Yeah.
And so we went on a little bit of a tangent here, but going back to that, what sort of work have you been doing around that? You said now you feel in the first time in your life that you've got a partner that you actually feel safe to kind of grow through that.
Yeah. Or it's the first time that the vulnerability underneath all the coping strategies in relationships has been able to come to the surface, because I didn't even have enough safety to get below the masks that I would wear, the avoidance strategies, just being in a completely convinced paradigm for me.
You're afraid to share that with somebody? Did you
I didn't know what was going on underneath.
You didn't even know.
So I was in a relationship. All the relationships I was in, I was always attracting people that I would be excited about initially and then just find a way to judge as much about them as I could humanly possibly judge.
Most likely it's a protection pattern, because if you can judge them first, bit of like the old Eminem movie where he throws
right
out
at the end.
Yeah, right.
He
Yeah,
bags
the rap battle, he bags himself out. Like I found in my experience also with relationships that I've had a tendency to do that when I felt vulnerable. It's like even in my current relationship, at certain times where I felt challenged or unsafe, I noticed myself looking at my partner differently and finding little things to not like about it. And luckily enough, in this relationship and the work that I've actually catched it, but even it still happens. So you were saying that you were noticing you're doing this, but now for it's the first time where you've actually been able to be aware of it. And why do you think that is? And a second question is, let's say someone's in a relationship right now with with the partner, and like, is it the partner's, like, do we just shop around for another partner that we can feel safe for? Is it our responsibility? Like, walk me through your experience, but then from that, is there some wisdom that you could then parlay? Is that a word? Parlay to I don't know, I felt like using it.
Throw in the advanced
parlay.
Words,
Yes.
that was me that pressed that. I'm now the DJ.
Did you get handball?
Well, how do you feel about me explaining this? Because there's a bit of backstory to this.
Yeah, go for it.
And I feel like
go into the story. Go into the story.
Yeah, I'll go into the story, and then you can hit me with like what you're interested in.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Awesome.
So with me, when I got into this, all the previous relationships that I've been in, because I had an upbringing where both my parents, there was a lot of mistrust and unsafety in the connection with my parents growing up. So my dad was super aggressive. He was a drug dealer. He was an alcoholic. He was addicted to drugs. There was a lot of crazy stuff going on. So there's a lot of extreme yelling and fighting and manipulation and control. And my mom left when I was 13. So she was my safety net. And then I woke up one morning and she was gone.
Wow.
Her and my dad were both suicidal their entire lives. So she was hanging on by a thread. When she left, I found her suicide letter that she'd left.
Fuck me. At 13?
At 13, she left. I didn't see her for 4 years.
Wow.
So she was my safety net. She played the polarity to my dad being super aggressive. And I felt like a little mama's boy. Mom will protect me. And she did. She had to, because my dad was super aggressive and intense. And he had abuse and a bunch of stuff when he was a kid, and he was just passing it on. So I essentially grew up just being told how to think, what to do. And my dad being very controlling. And so I didn't have a lot of trust in the people that were closest to me. And so without realizing it, growing up in different relationships, I was always looking at, I didn't understand what it meant to have a healthy relationship. I definitely didn't have it modeled. My parents were fighting, screaming, yelling, arguing every day. When my mom left, dad would yell at me for 3 or 4 hours every single night for like 4 years straight until we would physically fight.
Wow.
And then I left home in high school because I was like, fuck this guy. I went to the gym, I did weights so I could be like, don't fucking talk to me like that. I'm getting out of here. So my kind of like inbuilt association to being able to trust family members was just rock bottom. And so I didn't even have any idea what I was looking for in a relationship. I just seeing the world through my eyes, having no idea what a healthy relationship is, looking for a woman that was kind of modeling. I was looking for my mum back when I was looking for women, someone to nurture me, to be really safe. But simultaneously, I couldn't even trust them when I got it because I was so scared they were going to leave. I would see my dad qualities in it, and it was just like a fucking mess. So functionally in life, business success, thriving, health, you put me on a mission for something and I'll make it happen because my self-worth has been tied into achievement. But when it comes to relationships, even though I'm got a manipulative, intelligent complex of knowing all the strategies, reading all David Dieter, reading Alison Armstrong, seeing relationship coach after relationship coach, I could write a book on relationships. But in terms of how I show up as a functional human, as an adult, I show up more as a child than an adult in relationships. And I could only see it in this relationship. And so what happened, I got with Shana and I was like, okay, fuck yeah, this person actually could be. I'd stopped looking for the one and then found someone that had the attributes of it, as always, as soon as I detached.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, this could be my partner. And the moment that I thought this could be my life partner, all fucking hell broke loose. Everything came to the surface. I was like, so confused because I started to feel mega anxious as soon as I was around her. Like my whole body went into almost like a panic attack.
Wow.
And I would start to see her and think, man, she is ugly.
Yeah,
she is disgusting. Get away from me. And she's not successful enough. She's not driven enough. And it's not just I'm just going to judge her to create a bit of defensiveness. It is a safety strategy.
Yes.
But
it was so experiential.
Debilitating.
Yeah, wow.
But I knew that it was irrational. I just did not have any idea what was going on. So I was resilient and I kept showing up for about 9 months until I finally found, because I saw coaches and I was like, what the fuck is going on with me? I kind of feel like this person's healthy, but I'm acting. 1 minute I'm thinking she's the ugliest person in the world. Next minute I'm really attracted and excited about the future. What the heck is going on to me? And then I found out that I had relationship OCD.
Yeah, gotcha.
Which is an intense safety strategy to just like the fear.
Yes.
That I'm not worthy of love and I could get really, really hurt here. So I manufacture a question to obsess about to distract me and create distance from the potential threat of being hurt. And that question that I became obsessed with was, is Shana the one?
Yeah, gotcha.
So I would watch videos. Is she the one? Compare every time I'd talk to a friend. What do you think of Shana?
Everything is like this alignment of constantly questioning everything.
Yes. Yeah. To try to escape the deep level of anxiety and fear that was a somatic experience in my body with this. And so that was about halfway through our relationship of 18 months. Halfway through,
You're
I found
at 18
out.
months now?
Yeah. And so this is about halfway, 9 months in. And then then 6 months after I found out about it, I was working with a therapist weekly to try to like understand it and navigate the situation. And like, I'm feeling like this person's disgusting, get the fuck away from me. And this is a massive threat, but I know consciously that it's BS. So can I create distance from that? Even though everything in my mind and body's saying sprint, can I just stay there anyway and not project? Blah, blah, blah. So it's very reactive, behavioral, situational, solutions. But the last I'm going to say 2-3 months, I've been starting to address the emotions underneath the root cause of why the fuck am I so afraid of getting hurt? What's the feelings that I haven't felt as a kid that my kid's still holding on to and terrified to come out, that's having me want to protect, distance myself, run away at all costs. And so what that's been looking like for me is like twice a day, for minimum 40 minutes, 40 to 60 minutes. I sit with myself, by myself, don't move a millimeter. Even though I want to itch, take my shirt off, I get hot. And I'll usually burst into tears, crying, because the grief comes up from what this stored shit from my upbringing, and it's fucking difficult. Wow. Like you and I are into intense physical challenges, business challenges, run, succeed, make money, make sales, build a sales team, build a business.
Things that a lot of other people would think are like the hardest things in the world. And what you're saying is, I've done all that. This is a million times.
A new level of courage.
Yeah. And I mean, I just want to thank you, just before I say anything else, for having the courage to share that, because I can't tell you how many people will listen to this and, you know, get some permission around that. They might not necessarily go, I went through exactly what he went through, or not even understand. But whatever they're going through, it's like people go through a lot of shit, and it doesn't make you any less masculine. I think being able to share what you're actually going through and having the fucking balls to do something about it, that's what in my mind makes you a man. It's having the balls to know what you deserve, what other people deserve, and really just doing the fucking work, which you're clearly doing to be able to share that. Because I'm sure unless you'd done that, you wouldn't be able to share this, you know, very vulnerable stuff on a podcast like this right now.
Thank you. Thanks for saying that, bro. And I've been very surprised at how many people I've spoken to about some of the symptoms of what I've been going through that go, fuck, dude, I've felt very similar things. I've been judging, doubting, overwhelmed, not sure whether she's the one obsessing with it. A lot of people message me when I've shared little snippets of this online going, fuck, thank you so much.
There's so much shame. It was what Camille and I were talking about. when I was having that, and not to take the attention away from you for a second, but what I felt was a lot of shame for feeling that. I felt like a really fucking asshole of a person to be thinking that about someone 2 seconds ago. I think they're the hottest, most beautiful thing in the world, and then I'm having these feelings like what you said, not to the experience that you were having, but even to the small amount that I was having. I felt really, at the time, I felt really bad about it.
Yeah.
Did you have those? Because that then just makes it even worse, because now you're feeling it, then you're shaming yourself. Or I want to say for you, I was shaming myself for it.
Yeah.
Did you experience
I still do, man.
that as well?
What happens is like trigger comes up, like let's say now having a great time. I've just seen you and Alice together and I'm like, oh, my mind's already thinking, oh, they've got a cool dynamic. They've had a kid. They work well as a team. My mind's gathering ammunition. Now I'm like, my mind's to compare, to do anything it can to try to create distance. And I'm aware of it. And so I'm going to go home. I'm going to be like, I might have some genuine, authentic, exciting thing. Like I want to tell her I love her. I want to buy her a little gift on the way home or do some affectionate thing. And I might get home. And the moment I get home, she says, hey, baby. And the word baby or something like this, then I just think my whole body goes into massive anxiety attack. And then I start thinking, fuck, I feel so shit about that because the shame's massive and it keeps me, it can keep me down.
Judgment. Self-judgment, and then there's a whole thing of like wishing I wasn't doing this, but I am, but then I need to come to terms with that, but then I just surrender. Oh fuck, she's standing right in front of me. It's like, what the fuck do I do with this? And so,
and it's been difficult as well. Just saying, like I've had a lot of friends just well-meaning, giving advice, ideas, different relationship coaches. I saw a relationship coach who was kind of like accidentally shaming me when I was saying about some of the thoughts I was having. He was like, oh geez, I've never heard that before. And I was like, fuck man. So it's like, sometimes people give advice and they're like, have you thought about like, feeling into some of the emotions? It's like,
no, I've just been a coach for 10 fucking years and I didn't fucking think about it. It's like, no, I'm trying, but I'm clearly having a somatic experience and I'm not sure how to bridge the gap from the emotion and the absolute, flipping out about things to where I'm now. So I mean, dude.
So acceptance and patience.
Acceptance, big words. Because like, if this is my karma, right? I've got lots of other things that I'm blessed with. Like I'm healthy, born in Melbourne. You got beautiful long hair.
I've got luscious locks.
I actually like my bald head, so it's all good.
Maybe.
No, I generally. You know what's great about being bald?
You don't have to maintain anything.
My hair. I hated doing my hair because I'm such a perfectionist.
It takes a little bit of maintenance.
It
takes a bit of maintenance.
I missed the bus many of occasion trying to get that pink lid gel perfectly scented in my perfect spikes in high school.
Did you have a ski jump?
I didn't have a ski. I'm not Dumb and Dumber.
Shit, that's funny.
So we can also flip into a laugh as well. That's what's good about having a safe space,
Totally, dude. And if this was like at the start of the journey,
no,
I wouldn't be laughing. Like I'd be so in it. But I've been learning to manage it for 18 months, so it's been getting easier to reconcile it, even though the experience in my body is really challenging in mind, and I still go up and down. I see this as like, maybe it'll take 5 years, maybe it takes 7 years,
but it's going to have to be done. And the best part is, and I agree with it. It's if you ever want to have a healthy relationship that gives you the fulfilling stuff that you want, at some point you're going to have to do it. For you, it's in the relationship, and you shared before about sex and business. For some people, they find the stuff that we're talking about easy, but where their thing is that's like this, as you would know with business, people just have not the same experiences, but that just uncontrollable lockups and just anxiety that's just crippling and debilitating. And so,
yes.
Yeah, it's like everyone's kind of got their thing that for whatever reason, because of past trauma and experiences and all different stuff, keeps them kind of trapped. Can I ask some questions now?
Oh, dude, that's why I'm here, bro. Cool. Let's do it.
I want to give you. So first thing, your partner, obviously she's just amazing, right? You guys seem like a beautiful couple together from what I see. I haven't met her, I don't know her, but how does she feel about all of this? From my perspective, I would imagine sitting here that she's got this man who's willing to do the fucking work. But at the same time, I could imagine it also be challenging at times. Do you mind?
Definitely.
What a powerful, what a beautiful soul that she is. Does that give you some like that? How does that make you? I guess what I'm trying to say, I'm articulating it well because I'm trying to find my words. Even though you find it challenging, does that make you feel safe that you can be at your most vulnerable with her and she's still standing there with you? And it's not in any way to say like anything negative about anything. I just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, when I reflect, 100%. When I'm in the ROCD.
Oh, not in that place. Yeah. That place, everybody's, I hate everybody. But nobody's safe.
Absolutely, man.
No, in the moments of silence when you're not there.
One thing that I want to comment too of something that you just said is like, you seem like a lovely couple, which is true. Yeah. We are a lovely couple, but what we are showing online, what you see online is never what the full experience is of what a couple is experiencing in their lives. I think this is a really important point to touch on.
That's why I want to have this and I want to have these conversations because I think like people would see Ellis and I, you would walk into the room like we're humans. We're like anybody else. Ellis, just before, in our life, look, we were reparenting each other for a very long time because of the parental issues that we both had around traumas and attachments and things like that. We would literally role play. Like I would be, not in a sexual way. I would just create that father masculine kind of presence for her and literally allow her to just be a child. Do you know what I mean? As nuts as people might be thinking, what the fuck are this guy talking about? And that was being so healing for us. But to go back to what you're saying is, yes, of course, social media, these are just pictures. These are highlight reels. That's why I think deeper conversations like this are so important. So that people don't just go, and start comparing. Well, Ryan looks so great with his wife and they go, it's blah, 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 blah. Or Scott, oh, wow, actually, they're humans and they're going through things and it's okay for me to go through things.
Yes. There's times when I've had certain couples that either I've been pedestaling or Shana, my partner's been pedestaling. Yes. And then and we've caught up with them in person and they've been talking about how easy their relationship is, how awesome it is. Week later they break up. Yeah. And it's like this happens regularly with different people because it's that innate fear of there's something wrong with me, the shame that has us pedestal and look at other people and assume there's something weird and wrong with me if I'm having relationship problems. Relationships are the hardest fucking thing. It brings up the most stuff for every single person. So it's the thing that triggers the parental trauma that gets passed down from their parents and their parents and their parents. And the most trauma gets brought out in relationships.
There's a reason why, I don't know what the exact statistic is because it's constantly changing and it's different in different countries, but divorce rates are, very, very high.
It's at least 50%.
Yeah, I think it was 50, 60, something like 50, 60%. And sure, I think some people partner up and they probably shouldn't be together. And other people and again, I don't want to speak for those other people you were talking about, but a lot of times I know in my mind, I've, gone, oh, this is all perfect. This is great. And when the hard stuff comes, they do it, which is a testament to you guys, that you're actually staying there and you're doing the work and you're working on, which for me is, that's what Ellis and I don't think I could date somebody who isn't on a growth journey because there's work to be done in relationships. And if one person's doing the work and someone else isn't, it's very hard. And a lot of people, you just outgrow the person a lot of the time.
Well, my personal opinion is that, and this is coming back to one of the other questions you asked just a moment ago of how does Shana feel about all this, me going through this relationship anxiety and having all these feelings towards her. Well, we're a 50-50 contribution to the dynamic. Even though I have this going on, we are, and I believe every single relationship is exactly to the point a 50% contribution of the dynamic that's gets created. Even if someone's like super functional and crushing it in every area of their life and the other person's depressed, suicidal, it is an equal 50-50 dynamic until the second that someone chooses to end the relationship.
What does that, walk me through that because I didn't quite understand the point that you were making. So what do you mean by 50% contributes to the dynamic? What do you mean by that?
Like a lot of the time when you hear people talk about their relationship, it's going through hardship and someone's talking to their friend and they're like, my partner's like, I'm doing the growth. They're not doing the growth. It's like they're like struggling a little bit and they're not pulling their weight and they kind of making it out like I'm 70% value, they're 30% value.
Okay, gotcha.
They're like, I'm the one that's here and I've just, I don't know if I'm going to stay. I don't know if I'm going to stay in this because my partner's not pulling their weight and because like I'm better than them. A lot of people have this feeling or thought of like hierarchy when it comes to relationships.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's a very, very common thing when I talk to people in personal development because oftentimes they're partners who aren't into personal development.
Yes.
And because they're growing themselves, there's a comparison and they're trying to fix the other person. And so they're communicating from a presupposition that they're better than their partner and they're questioning their partner's value, which is what I'm notorious for.
I would agree to that. My only thing that I would add is that I think there is some truth to it sometimes in the context that I don't think that it means you're a better person. I think that might be what they're thinking at the time, but I don't believe that's necessarily the way that it should be thought about, is that like I'm better than this person or because I'm doing the work. But I think that it would be honest, only in my opinion, my experience, to say, okay, cool, I'm on this growth journey. These are the things that I would like to have and be unapologetic about having in a relationship. This person, because I'm doing the growth work, I'm the person who I was and what I want in a relationship. As I faced my shadows and I realized I was settling in certain areas, I was attracted to you because of certain things. Now as I'm growing into a new man or a new woman and I'm looking at our relationship, there are some things that I'm not happy with, some areas, and I think what we're doing is I'm realizing in real time that I was with you in some cases, not necessarily because I saw you as this new version that I'm a different person. So I don't think it makes that person bad or me better. What I think is now I have different wants, different needs, and we're not yet really able to take that truth and say, well, maybe that we shouldn't be together. Sometimes people run. I think that person, like, I don't see that if those are needs that somebody has to have and that person can't meet them, or they don't want to meet them, I don't think it's wrong, or I don't think anyone wants to feel bad if someone's worse, but I just think that, potentially sometimes people shouldn't be together.
Yeah, you happy for me to comment to that?
Please do.
Yeah.
The point is I want to have different opinions and different debates so that we can let the listeners watch and go, oh, yeah, I think, rather than me and us just always having guests that are just always the same opinions. It doesn't really...
Yeah, totally, dude. Totally. And so my kind of response opinion is... not a single person on the planet is better or worse than anyone.
Of course.
100%.
Of course, agree to that.
But a lot of people, as a safety strategy, because there's actually an insecure and a fear of them not being lovable, which I witness and coach, they perceive their partner as worse as a safety strategy, just like I've done in every relationship I've been in. I've attracted someone. I've perceived that I'm better than them and they need to rise to my standard as I start to grow, and I'm afraid they're not going to grow at my pace.
Yes.
But I'm actually underneath all those masks. I'm actually just afraid of being loved. And so I'm just conjuring this whole narrative of, but they're not doing this and they're not doing that. And I'm trying to control their life. What you said at the end there is exactly on point, which is, in my opinion, if they're not meeting the needs and wants that I'm clearly, patiently articulating, that's the one thing that is the responsibility of the person in the relationship.
That's my point, because I do think that the tendency, you said it yourself, you're working with people for the sole purpose they're probably dealing with the issues that you just mentioned.
No. Just normal humans. No, I don't coach people with ROCD.
Oh, no, I wasn't.
Just normal.
I'm saying if you had a client who was having a problem in a relationship and they were having this type of scenario, that would be more common than, say, the person who's doing the point that I made.
Well, my people that I coach are in personal development and they're coaches, right?
Gotcha.
So they're into the thing that you were just talking about, which is growth. So they all say what you just said there, like, I'm growing.
They don't embody it.
No, they're just like, I'm growing, I'm leading, I've changed, I'm up leveling, and you're not up leveling, and they're focusing all the time on their partner's growth.
Yes.
Because they're actually feeling insecure about who they are, and they're growing from a place of insecurity because they're trying to change themselves all the time because they don't love themselves, and they're making their partner a project, and they're crippling their partner because they're actually trying to distract away from just asking for what they want. What they actually want is to be deep down is to be loved, but they're afraid to say, hey babe, can you let me know that you love me? Can you give me a massage tonight? Instead, they're thinking, but I did this course and my partner's not doing spiritual stuff like me.
I get what you're saying. Now.
You get what I'm
they're
saying?
thinking they need to do this in order for me to be loved. They've got to do the X so that I can feel the Y, instead of just saying, hey babe, I'd love Y.
Yeah, exactly.
In a very simplistic, answer. Like, hey,
because they're afraid.
Yes.
Because if they ask for if they just said to their partner, hey babe, I just want to be vulnerable and say that I'd love to connect more with you, and I'd love you to give me a hug or do this sexual thing, or tell me that I'm a good boy when we're making love to heal my inner child. Like the things that deep down they actually want, if they just asked for it, then they'd have to get it, and they're afraid to get it. So all the conjuring of like, but they're not into growth. They're not this.
It's more going back to what it's kind of a bit like what you were saying before, where it's finding things that are wrong with them. Yeah. In order to do the Eminem thing, where I'm now able to
creating distance, creating safety,
because it feels unsafe for people to think, well, if I'm growing, this person's not growing, then they're not going to keep up with me, and then I'm going to, it always ends up with dying somehow. Then I'm going to go this, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and then I might as well just end it now because they're not going to. And you think that I agree with that, and I would say I haven't been exposed enough to it to really know what most people do, but all I can tell you from my experience, literally going through that, and ending a relationship. For me, it didn't. From my experience, it didn't feel like that for me. But it sounds like that would actually be, a common.
Well, I also ended previous relationships when it really felt like the aligned thing to do for me at that stage to end it, because that person didn't have the capacity. And it wasn't that relationship was right and I should have tried to make it work. But I also at that time wasn't acknowledging my fears of being loved.
Yes.
I was seeing them more through the lens
of
the point. Them being the problem.
And this is the entire point. It's not about, I don't think it's, you could line up the pathway and look objectively at all of the steps. I think it's more so not what you do, but the energy underneath why you're doing it and being conscious of that. Would that be a clear way of articulating?
Very, very challenging to do that, but that's the intent. And just knowing that's why I said the 50-50 thing, because my experience is probably 70 to 80% of personal development orientated people that love growth or their coaches, 70 to 80% of them are terrified that they're not worthy of love, they're not good enough. A lot of the growth, even though there's light in it, the shadow aspects of it is to try to change themselves because they don't feel like they're worthy of love for who they are.
That's what personal development does, attract that type of person. I mean, I started out in that place. I still loved.
Do it all the time. It's like, why am I doing it? And I love it. So there's light and shadow to it.
Yes.
And so many of the people that come in who are just well-meaning but don't realize they conjure this little paradigm in their head that I'm better, they need to change but they're actually really just scared of being loved.
Okay. I love this. What I would love to do is kind of, let's say a lot of the listeners, some of them will be coaches or in personal development space, but for the guys that I've seen you, like I said before, you've traveled somewhere recently, Vanuatu was it? And I see you doing a lot of like men's circle stuff. Let's say take the coaches and the personal development people out of the equation for a moment. And let's say there's the everyday man. I'm genuinely interested because recently I've realized that I've got a lot of amazing things in my life and okay, cool. I've got this season. Okay, cool. Kind of not ticking boxes, but I'm intuitively feeling what is that kind of next thing that my intuition's saying. And right now it's like brotherhood. I really have. I've got some great mates. Catch up with my boys tonight. That's fantastic. But I feel like, that next kind of phase for me is really being around more men, like community type stuff and doing more like, less going out for dinner and having a few wines and that stuff, which I love, but more so those sort of things, which I see like you're in that space, right?
I'm new to the space.
New to the space, but you're more seasoned than I am.
Sure. And more seasoned, and you're more seasoned than most people.
Yes.
So it's like we're both new to this space because brotherhood's not really a living or like thriving organism in the world right now.
Yes.
It's new, which is a shame because it's just something that we're having to relearn.
Exactly. Because this is the type of thing you said, I think you said the word tribal earlier, right? This is how we used to thrive as men. And that's what I feel intuitively that's kind of, okay, this is that next thing that's, I'm not like, it's not coming from a needy place. It's coming from more like a conscious ground. Okay, I'm feeling guided to where I need to go to next. But to kind of speak to the listener who's like an everyday guy. You're talking about your trade. You could be talking about people that are working in the city like we're in right now in Melbourne. And, you know, you talked about relationship stuff before. You talked about masculinity, some stuff like we talked about shame. I've seen you do a lot of work on yourself. You shared coaching, relationships. I've seen you hit pillows and boxing bags and, you know, yelling stuff, like all sorts of different modalities. For the average Joe, like, how can we, in the purpose of kind of making him great again, relationships being a big part of that, what are some modalities that you think that are really powerful for men to be doing to be able to do what you're doing right now? Because that would scare the absolute bejeebers out of them, the most men, to share their most vulnerable things that they have dealing with most recently or any time in their life that they've felt shame around, that have affected, like, what you're doing right now is so courageous. How can men, I find men struggle to just grow their business or struggle to live in their relationship without, say, some of the kind of very, you know, tough challenges that you went through as a child. So you've got a fantastic depth of perspective and practice. So for the average guy, what do you think is going on in relationships, and what do men need to do in order to do the work so that they can become more courageous, more vulnerable, and ideally thrive more as a husband, father, leader? Yeah,
dude. So I would just say like two things for the average Joe to explore would be see a therapist or a psychologist or a psychotherapist.
Yep.
See a therapist. Just get a therapist. It's like $100, $200 a session. See him once a week, once a fortnight, and just see where it goes. A lot of the time, that's a great starting point, because what happens is it's just you and that person. And if there's someone that you trust and you feel safe with, they're going to open up cans of worms that you don't feel safe enough in your lifestyle to look at, that are secretly dictating the way that you show up as a partner in relationship, as a father. And so you'll start to bring out some of those unconscious, unknown, unseen patterns, traumas, wounds, or whatever, and just get to talk to someone in a really simple way. I still do therapy. I've done therapy for ages. I feel like that's just an easy, cheap, supportive.
Do you have like, it's funny that you shared that as one of your key things, because most people, me included, haven't really had much success with therapists. I can't tell you how many people that I've worked with as a coach with, and that they've felt like they've gotten more results in a short period of time than they have in years. And I'm not saying in any way, shape or form that I'm some big rah-rah. I'm talking about just for a lot of people who will be listening right now going, I saw a therapist, I did a bunch of sessions, it didn't really do much. I had a guy sitting on this couch just yesterday who said the exact thing. So not to say that what you're saying is wrong, but I'm just curious, what has been your experience as opposed to my experience, and how did you find these good therapists? That makes sense.
Yeah. I don't think it's. I do think.
Did you try out a bunch of them to find the right one? Or you just went
just with someone that I felt safe with, that I felt that I looked at and just went, yeah, I respect this person. You know, they're enough in. I like this person.
That's a key thing. I think respect. I don't think I've respected. Some of the other ones I've used.
But that's the reason that most people don't get success with therapy, given if the therapist is a great therapist, is that they're afraid of going to the point that the therapist is trying to take them, and so they use this isn't working, this is too slow, which is like an exit point. Which
is my point, though. A lot of people, yes, again, like they might know that, you know that, I know that, fucking everybody knows that. but the experience they have is that they can't use their voice to speak the words. They don't feel safe. Like you've obviously done a lot of work, and you're someone who is able to share your voice and share things that you feel of shame about. But a lot of men don't feel that safe. So then they go to talk and nothing comes out, and then the session's wasted. And I think that's why, I know people that have been stuck until their late 40s. They go do one breathwork session, and it's like suddenly they're crying. They're able to do things, and maybe
I feel you.
You know, I'm just thinking, is there? Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you
Can
know
relate to that?
No, it's a good point.
Not necessarily you, but in looking at other people.
Well, yeah, I relate to it as well. But it's a really great point because I'm kind of taking into consideration the normal person that I work with, and I do therapy practices with people. Like I do things like inner child work, the basic psychotherapy work, emotional work, trauma work, which is what therapists do. And I guess I'm perceiving that therapists would approach it the same way that I would, but they probably don't.
I've actually never seen a therapist that's done inner child work. Like, you know, like there's Nicole LaPera. Like I'm sure that since I've done therapy, there's been Nicole LaPera, there's been your Marston Kipps, you've got your polyvagal theories and all these different things that like people are much more trauma informed. There's trauma informed coaching. I did EMDR this year. That was awesome.
I'm going to go on a rant on this.
Go for it, please. I want it. I want it. Give it to me.
So I don't think this whole healing journey is something where you find the right solution. Obviously, you know that it's a lifelong thing.
Yes,
so for me,
correct.
When you say what's something that the average person can do just to kind of like get started, for me, that's a great starting point. I also think.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean. I don't. Did I say get started? I think I just said to make to.
What are some powerful modalities?
Yeah. What are some
so
powerful?
That's just an assumption I made.
Okay.
Where can they start?
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the way that I feel about my healing journey is that I see it as like such a long-term thing, and I incorporate so many different aspects of it. But I think there's an important base,
a base understanding.
So like if there's someone that's got less personal development and a little bit overwhelmed by the kind of intensity of my vulnerability or the practices that I share that I do myself, like 2 hours of crying a day in meditation and like
then that person, okay, go and do some therapy. You're not ready to cry 2 hours a day yet, which is fair enough.
I wasn't when I started. I've been in personal development for 15 years. I've only been doing that the last year. So it's like,
and everybody might not need to do that as well. Like it's a personal development journey. It's a journey, and it's personal. There's nothing wrong. Like it's as obvious as you can get it. It's personal to you. That might be what you need.
I think everyone needs to do emotional work.
Oh no, not emotional. I'm saying 2 hours of crying.
Oh yeah.
Per
No,
day,
no.
You know,
that's not even what I have to do. It's just because I like diving into the deep end.
Yes.
So I think what you
find
touched
it
on. This is what I feel aligned to do at the moment because my whole life's about this stuff. This is my I'm on a podcast. It's my personal life. I'm on a podcast here talking about it because I'm an obsessed with personal development person.
Yeah.
So I think that what you mentioned is a really great point around the breath work because you know that I facilitate breath work.
Yes.
Breath work is. So I'll mention a few different modalities and then people can just go, what aligns for me?
Exactly.
I think therapy is a great, given that someone actually has good experience behind them, and some modalities you could look at is like, are they trained in internal family systems?
Yes,
are they trained in inner child work?
Yeah.
Do they have trauma-informed background?
Which they'll usually have on their website. If you look up their name, you'll see these little things that they're interested in as well as like
you'll
what
see their repertoire and like what can they do?
Send me your CV before I work with you.
Exactly. So breath work separate to because if I'm working with a client, the biggest thing that I'm trying to do when I'm helping them with their trauma is get them to feel safe enough to be in the emotion in a way where they're being compassionate so they can release it. In order to do that, I need to be very skillful at building trust. I need to be very skillful at saying the right prompting to get them into the emotion, because the second emotion starts to come up, everyone just shuts off when they're not used to it. So it's a very artful thing to do, and it takes a lot of practice and experience to facilitate that. But when someone does breath work, you just get blown right open because you're breathing so intensely in most of the different breathwork modalities that you're so in your body, you're so out of your mind that the mind doesn't block you and just shut off and disassociate. You can't help but feel the things.
Yeah.
So breathwork is a phenomenal place to start as well. And that's one of the other big things that I would suggest.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I feel like you were leading down the journey of with like is men's work. So if there's men listening to this, because it's Make Men Great Again.
Yeah.
The cool thing about men's work for those that are listening is that men's circles usually have a set of parameters that make it a really easy space to share. For example, there's usually a concept where you're not allowed to use the language you. So you can't say, when you're having that day, you get home from work and you just feel like shit and you just end up saying all this stuff to your partner. Because then the word when, it's assuming that everyone in the circle is experiencing that. So everyone has to share owning their experience and no one's allowed to jump in and give advice or opinions. They just have to listen and say, thank you, end of story. Yeah. So it becomes an easy place to share the deep stuff. Like you said, people might not feel comfortable doing all this vulnerability stuff. Yeah, damn straight. I don't, and that's why a men's circle can be powerful, because if you share it to a work colleague, they probably feel uncomfortable with the situation of hearing all this stuff. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is bringing up my own stuff. Are you okay? Have you thought about doing this? And
they trained you, you should see a therapist.
Yeah. So like, it can be I feel very uncomfortable telling people who aren't into personal development or don't have experience in emotional work about what's going on for me, because it makes them uncomfortable and then they try to change my situation. Yeah. Whereas I'm just like wanting to share to
You're just like, I'm just cool with what I'm doing. I'm not doing it because I need you to fix me. I'm doing it
I'm
because
just telling you what's
who I am. And this is my personal journey.
Yeah, exactly. And so guys that are listening, if you go to a men's circle of some kind, they're just any random dudes. They could be successful, not successful. They could be old, young. They could be broke, rich. It doesn't really matter. They're just dudes. Yeah. You share what's alive for you, and then you get it out of your system. Listen to other people. It usually gives some like empathy, because you're like, oh shit, the stuff that I was going through,
other people are going through. It's not just me. Good. I don't have to feel as much shame around it. Yeah.
So you're processing it outside the relationship. So you're not holding onto it and then projecting resentment at your partner or the emotions that you haven't felt or the things you haven't said aren't lingering in the back of your head. And therefore you're just resenting your partner. You get it out. And then you come back into your relationship, your family unit, feeling a bit clearer and more empowered and more light.
Have there been any commonalities without, sharing things that are other people's stuff that they wouldn't be shared, but it's a generalization. What'd you say?
Oh, just James F. Thompson at 46 Town Street.
Oh, yeah.
His story.
With the wife who the other day wouldn't give him
his wife the other day. Yeah.
And he complained about in the men's circle. Drives a red Tesla. Have there been any commonalities in the types of things that you see men struggle with in these circles when you're being present to that, either as a facilitator or as a member?
I'll go hard and I'll share that
You would never go hard.
I always go hard, baby. This is a serious topic though. Most from being in lots of different men's retreats, men's events, and just men around the world, and just listening to what people go through in their deepest, darkest stuff, a high percentage of men have been sexually abused as kids.
You're kidding me.
A high percentage.
By men or women?
Both. But more often men. That's crazy.
You just like dropped a massive bomb on here.
I did, and it's true though.
So what my mind's like trying to grapple with this, right? So in my mind, this is what's going on right now. It's like, wow, that's crazy information.
Yes.
And then I'm trying to justify it in my mind and logicalize. Okay, so would I be right to say that am I simplifying things by saying that the men's circles attract, or do you think that there's as a percentage of the society, or do you think it's the fact that these men's circles, people are like, for me, I didn't feel safe. I wasn't sexually abused, but I had my father, who's a beautiful man, I want to say that, just he didn't know how to manage his emotions, and he was at times both emotionally and sometimes physically dominant and some would say, abusive. And so I very much had a struggle with being close to other males. Like I didn't feel safe and lone wolfed it for a lot of my life. So I can relate to being then attracted to going to those places. Even coming to your men's circle I was doing for a little while. The main reason I was coming there, which I shared in that circle, was because I was trying to push myself to get outside my comfort zone. And I found myself going there and I would use my certain status of things to make myself feel safe, and because I didn't feel that I was enough to just be myself. So
totally.
Going back to what you said, that circle, do you think that it attracts?
Wasn't a specific circle, just what I've experienced in general.
Yeah, but I mean, doing men's events. Do you think that that just blows my mind?
Exactly, it blows your minds, but it's fucking true. And most people in society, because there's so much shame, like I have things that I only felt safe to share 10 years into my personal development journey, right? So imagine the average person that's never done personal development, doesn't even feel safe to tell their partner that they feel attraction to another person, let alone that they were sexually abused or that they were beaten to a pulp as a kid or whatever it is. People just suppress. A lot of people don't even remember being traumatized, abused. A lot of people don't remember, because what I've found with the PD work, the deep traumatic disassociation, and it's like only after a series of, this is just innumerous people.
I have heard this before.
Innumerous people that I've coached and done healing sessions and supported.
Completely like blacked it out. And then after a certain amount of time of healing, as we're getting younger and younger through they're opening up to earlier and earlier memories, and boom, and they remember that they were sexually abused. And they feel, do you think it's because they feel
safe enough eventually?
Safe enough to remember that, because
to feel the pain. Emotionally, that's attached to that memory. That their nervous system, their inner child, doesn't trust that they could hold that, and so it doesn't feel safe to bring that up. So going back to the question, because there's more. I
don't even remember what my question was. I'm still like processing.
Yeah. So there's a high percent, like a high percentage in what you expect. I would have expected to be 1%.
What's a high? What do you call high?
I reckon 30%.
30%.
If I had to put a guess on it, I reckon 30% of men have been sexually abused as a kid, from the experiences that I've been through.
That's a big statement. Wow.
Yeah, that's just my experience and my observation. That's my guess.
Yeah.
And what would statistics say? Are the statistics going to be accurate?
They're not going to be accurate because
people aren't going to share that, because they've got shame around it, or they don't even remember it. Yeah. So that's one. That's the reason I'm sharing that first is because the one was most surprising for me.
Yeah.
From seeing.
You were also in my position where it's just.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like, wow.
I wouldn't have expected it at all, but then just from witnessing and experiencing it, I'm just over and over again seeing it. And they're people that, as a high achiever, I would look at in the past and just judge them for not being as driven and successful, or being a bit awkward, and just like, why aren't they as driven as me? And then I'm like, the poor fucking person is like hanging on for dear life, because the person that they trusted most, their grandpa or their uncle or their father or some random person, their second cousin, touched them as a kid. Yeah. And so they've been feeling deeply inadequate for their entire fucking life up until this point. And this is men. I would have thought heaps of women, and it's true with women as well. There are high percentages for women. But I wouldn't have thought it would have happened to men. But if I had to put a number on it, it'd be 30%. The amount of men that have physically or sexually abused.
So 3 out. So you're thinking, and you're getting to that because you're going, okay, cool. I've been around hundreds of people, and if I recall back, maybe 3 out of every 10, or 30 out of every 100, if I think about things.
Numbers. Wow. Yep. That would be my guess, right? Then how many men have been unfaithful to their partners, cheated on their partners? Probably like 50%. How many men have sexually or physically abused another woman? Probably like 30%, 50%.
So what was that last one?
Sexually or physically abused another woman.
You think 30 to 50% of men, so 1 in every 2 people has sexually or physically abused a woman in their lifetime.
Yep.
So that means if I've got 6 friends, 3 of them have done that. I
don't know about them. I'm just saying at the men's events that I've been at, this is just what I've seen.
Fuck me.
Yeah. And so why? Why the fuck is this happening? The reason why is because it happened to them. Why did it happen to them? Because the people that did it to them had it happen to them.
It's a systemic, generational, whether it be family or not, trauma.
Usually family. It's usually family. And
I'm hearing everything you're saying, and I'm also I'm like, it has to be. I would say that it couldn't be in my mind, and I don't know this, but it couldn't be that that's the overall. If you let's say there's how many people in Australia? 20 million.
25 million.
Let's just say that. This is probably not correct, but let's say it's 50-50. Let's just say it's 12.5 men, 12.5 women, that, there's
3 million men that have been sexually abused.
3 million men. That, it seems like to me, and again, maybe I'm naive, which is potentially the case, but it seems like, and in the same thing as the abusive thing, the last comment that you made, it seems like to me the only plausible, I'm sure that it's more than I think, but it seems the only plausible thing for me is that the men's personal development attracts, and doing the work on itself attracts people that have had a lot of pain. That would be a pretty safe thing to say, would you say?
I would, but I think the point here is not like what's the percentage. I think the point here is the fact that most of society, people in men's work being they're just men. There's some people that go to these men's works things that, like there was a guy at a recent men's work event that recently sold his business for multi-8 figures. Yeah. There was a guy there that's just been living in the country his whole life. He's a country bumpkin. There's fucking people from all sorts of different walks of life. They all seem different functional.
As I'm witnessing myself, I think I'm triggered and I'm going, I feel very protective of men, and you're dropping these statistics and I'm going,
because that's the assumption is that there's something wrong. That's a bad thing.
I'm not saying an assumption about them. I'm saying it's more of a protective of like, what will other people think of men? Yes. That's what it comes down to. And I'm just being honest.
But this isn't a call to say men are fucked up. This is a call to say men are hurting.
Yeah.
Hurt people hurt people.
Well, I just want, as long as, I think that's the perfect point. I think
that is the point. The point is that men are hurting.
And hurt people hurt people. I love that.
Hurt people, and men are hurting. And people have, whether it's not about, because I'm just making the extreme points, but you don't have to have had that to have had trauma.
Yeah.
Most people are just so suppressed with what's actually going on underneath. Because this is blowing my fucking mind, dude.
Yeah, I'm sitting here. I'm having the same experience.
It's blowing my mind because I'm going there thinking I've had the worst upbringing ever because I had a really abusive upbringing, a drug dealer, alcoholic, drug abusive parents. And I'm just like, that's fucked up. And I go to these things and I'm just like, there's people who've gone through so much worse shit than I've gone through because it's a safe enough environment to talk about it. So if you're a man listening to this, it's not about comparing yourself with this.
It's not about saying my trauma's less than your trauma, and that also minimizes what I've gone through, or it doesn't need to pedestal what someone else has gone through and say
exactly.
It's just like a lot of men have gone through a lot of shit, and it hurts, and if we don't face this and resolve it in whichever modality that you choose,
it will most likely be passed on.
And if not to your kids, projected onto your partners as well.
So I grew up being yelled at, manipulated by my dad, who had a dad who was super fucking intense to him and he was super fucking intense to me. And I, as someone that's into personal growth, into personal development, I'm all about heart. I'm the heart guy. I've got the core method, which means heart. I teach people meditation, bro. I'm like a chill dude that's all about love, light, and shit. And I manipulate the fuck out of my partner.
Yeah.
I get aggressive.
I just want to say unconsciously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't want to do this shit.
You know that. I just want to make sure there will be people who watch this podcast that don't have the level of
I'll bring it in there.
Awareness.
Yeah. But I'm a fucking super well-meaning guy. I just want to be the most loving, picture perfect husband that's the best dad in the world.
Yes.
I want my partner to be able to authentically say, my partner is the most loving and affectionate, beautiful guy. He treats me the best. And then I get home and I'm anxious and I just am super controlling and try to
the trauma is who you are in your heart. I act
like my dad, the person I despise most.
And hold on. I'm giving you a clap there because it takes a lot to say that. And the start of this year, I just want to share a really quick story which relates to what you're saying. The start of this year, end of last year, I became a father, as you know. And I've always wanted to be a dad. And I've always also been afraid of being a father, not wanting to end up recreating, almost scared of myself, scared of passing on things. So I've set up, for the last 10 years, being in business, looking after my health, all of these things were so that knowing that I had struggled a lot as well. And so my whole goal was, one day I'm going to be a father. I need to set up my life in a way. Thank you for putting that down very gently.
Got you back, bro.
At some point in my life, I'm going to be a father, and I need to give myself the best starting point that's possible, which I did. Had a lot of things organized so that I would have the best possible chance to be the best father could be. And then I had my daughter. Everything's great, and then she started crying. And I'm high sensory. So I've always had struggle with sounds. When I was a kid and I stayed at someone's house, I would walk around, take all of the batteries out of the clocks, the ticking noise. I turned the fish tank off, the buzzing, the fish nearly died. My brother knows if he just taps that foot, he knows within 10 seconds. And that
I relate to this a lot, man.
The experience for me was so brutally uncomfortable, a ticking or a tapping, and then also sharp noises, any startling noises. I'll scream, fuck, shit, piss. Like it's to me, how I know when I've got trauma is when I have an overreactive response to something that I'm going to say it's normal, not normal, but it's overreactive.
It's objectively not a big deal, but it is for you.
Very big deal, to the point where it needs to stop. And so then you have a baby and you can't stop. You can't ask, excuse me, would you just stop crying? And so that was the most challenging thing for me, and I literally couldn't cope. I mean, I was flipping out. I literally had to say to my wife, this is the thing that I've looked forward to my entire life. This is the thing that I've set my life up. And I have to speak the words to my wife and say, it's not like I can't do this right now. I'm not leaving, and I know I feel like a terrible husband. I feel like a failure, but I need to do some work in myself because otherwise this is not going to be safe. Like that. There was a lot of shame, a lot of vulnerability tied into that.
Thanks for sharing something so vulnerable
for me. And I mean, I did the EMDR work, and I went back and was linked to a bunch of stuff with my dad and different things. But what brought this up was I was my dad in that moment, and I realized, and I was like, fuck, I did everything my entire life not to be this. And here I am, right? And I'm witnessing myself. I am, what my dad was, beautiful man, beautiful heart, but couldn't control his emotions.
Yes.
And so it's such a fucking profound thing to witness that within yourself.
Yes.
And I mean, granted, I've got a beautiful partner. I'm courageous in doing the work myself, and now I don't have that problem, and I'm able to be a better father, which I'm super proud of. Thank you. That's what prompted this, because I don't think everyone is in the situation where they, for whatever reason, they don't have maybe that support system. I've also done a lot of work, so I kind of knew what to do. I'd practiced it before, so sorry to hijack the thing off you there, but just I think that story was really relevant. That it can be felt in so many different ways. So you were feeling like shit. Okay, now I'm acting like my dad.
So we're in this situation. You and I are both into personal growth. We are well-meaning men.
Yes.
We pay tax. We're successful. We contribute to society. If there's an old lady that needs help crossing,
tax as possible.
Same. But we do. We contribute.
Yes.
And if there's an old lady that needs help crossing the road, I'll pick her up and give her a big kiss on the end.
Yep.
I'll write long letters that are super romantic and loving to my friends for their birthday. Yep. I tell my friends I love them all the time.
But sometimes you act like a cunt.
I'm a massive hugger. Right? So you'd look at me and people look at me when I speak and they're like, oh my gosh, or different girls pedestal me and they're like, oh, you know, I'm kind of found I wish I was with someone like Ryan. And I'm like, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And I hope this is the theme of this podcast of like, there's shit going on beneath the surface. And I do not like that it gets hidden.
Yeah.
And like, even the way that you shared that was very like eloquent in the way that you said that. But to summarize, you're just like, I'm a fucking danger to my own daughter.
Literally.
Yeah, a physical danger to my, because I have to shut the baby.
Which even right now it's bringing up emotion as I share because, and everyone said it's normal and it's okay, but for me to witness myself loving my daughter, it was such deepness and wanting to connect with her and what I actually realized, just to go beneath the surface for a second, when I did the EMDR work, what actually came up was that my subconscious mind or my nervous system didn't register her as a baby. She just a person,
a threat,
and well, just a human. And I'll describe the threat in a second. Yes, it was a threat, but just saw her as a human, didn't see her as a baby. Saw her as a human that I loved deeply and gave absolute everything of my soul to, which, like I have in my entire life, to everyone, heart on the sleeve, everything of myself, very loving. And just in those moments when she was screaming, just completely feeling really unsafe. And what came up was that I had felt like that as a child in friendships and with my dad, that this adult version of me now felt like I can protect myself now. Doesn't see my daughter as a child, and that's where the anger and aggression was coming out. It's like I froze up when I was a kid. I froze up into just locked up and just literally just could not move. And now I'm this strong, confident adult. And so it was like my younger self having these moments of like, I'm never going to let anybody do this to again, not realizing that this is my daughter. And if you're watching, you're thinking that sounds nuts. Like, this is how the mind and the nervous system work. It doesn't see a daughter, luckily my daughter's perfectly healthy and everything's fine. But I generally, to witness myself not being able to be the version of me that I wanted to be, and not just that, but being the complete fucking opposite of it, and then having to tell my wife that I can't be just the look in her eyes, that was one of the hardest things that I've dealt with.
Yeah.
And luckily I did find a therapist. Specifically, I was looking for EMDR to which is again like your recommendation of going through their things.
Yes.
And my wife was the person who recommended that. I don't know why. I think she'd seen like Gabby Bernstein talk about it or something like that.
Sure.
And I went and found this woman, and she was just, again, to your point, I felt very safe with her. I could tell her anything. And I did that work and processed all that stuff. And then since then, I'm able to, that charge isn't there anymore.
Which is fucking awesome. Great job doing the work. And so, like, if there's guys here that are listening to this right now, the point of this talk of men's work and men and these crazy just observations that I've made of the level of trauma that men, just average men that have come to these things have gone through, is of like, that's a difficult thing for you to share that brings up a lot of emotion, but you're into this work. You share it. You like to speak for a living. You want to do this full time podcast, right?
Well, I didn't feel safe to share any of this up until 12 months ago. And I knew that this is where I wanted to be. And so for the last 12 months, I've been doing work, specifically spinal energetics, breath work, and coaching
as well,
specifically to have the courage to share my voice like this. There's no way that 12 months ago I could have done this.
Yeah.
I just knew this is where I wanted to be, and then spent 12 months working on my courage through healing to be able to share this stuff, because I felt like this is, I did the ayahuasca ceremony I told you about off camera, and it said to me, you're a fucking pussy. That's what it said to me. Like, you are lying to yourself. You're lying to everyone around you. And I think it said, you've got a massive ego. I need to speak to you like this. Otherwise, it's not going to get through to you.
Sure.
It didn't want to give me the love and stuff like that. It was just like, listen here, motherfucker. Get your shit together. You need to be doing this stuff. And you're speaking, you're lying. You're speaking about this stuff to your coaching clients where it feels safe, where you're the leader.
Yeah.
But you're not going to put yourself out there where you might get rejected online.
Yeah.
And that was I knew that was off for me.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, man. Great stuff doing that journey. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So yeah, if that's you and this is me and we have these examples who have done heaps of work, then it kind of makes sense that people that haven't really done as much work would have their own equivalent of it. Listening, I hope that if you're listening to this, you go, okay, cool. Here's the two people that don't always have the capacity to act in alignment with the way that they want to from their heart.
And who they truly are.
Yeah, in the truth of their heart. And yet they still have these like behaviors that are unhealthy and massively judged in society. That's why I can so easily speak to all this, because we have everyone in society so quick to judge someone else, put someone else down.
Instead of being loved, do you think like, so to bring it back to this whole societal thing that we're talking about now, what I'm getting from you as a theme is like, okay, men are wounded, and instead of being met with judgment and shame, which makes them just continually be silent, perpetuate this stuff, we shouldn't be hating men and judging the behavior. We can still say, hey, that's not okay. It wasn't okay for me to be getting angry. It's not okay, but let's look at the truth of why this. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It means that you're wounded. We need to encourage the healing.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? That's what I'm getting from what you're saying.
Yeah, we need to remove the shame and not get, see, if you're listening to this and you're a dude and you're observed the shame culture of the last 3 years.
Yes.
COVID coming up, you're not wearing a mask. And you're just like, oh, you don't believe in Black Lives Matters. You're a woman, you shouldn't talk this. You're a man, you shouldn't talk this. You're not gay.
You're not allowed to be a man. You're not allowed to be a woman.
Just like anything you say, I'm going to kill you for it. And it's like, yet those people that are lunging out in response to being like treated, like the people that are really protective of this stuff have been abused, right? Yes. And so instead of them doing the healing work for the abuse,
I'm going to make you do all the work.
Yeah, I'm going to wrong everyone that's an abuser. So they're carrying it still. They're not working on it. They're carrying it and playing the blame game, which is rightful. Like, of course, they're feeling scared and that's their solution to the fear. But while they're shaming and wronging everyone else, they're not doing the work themselves, and they'll probably end up doing the same thing to other people. Literally.
I love it.
Because that's what they're doing just by, like, if someone's like a woman that's into women or a man that's into man, and then they're really defensive of how people talk about a gay person and they're just quick to lunge and judge.
You're a homophobe.
Yeah, you're a homophobe. And they're scared of being judged, and they're massively judging all people.
Yes, it's like the same thing that you're saying that you shouldn't be doing, you're doing to somebody else.
Exactly. They're doing the same thing because they're not willing to have the compassion and empathy for themselves.
They haven't dealt with their own shame.
And for the people that shamed them in the past.
Yeah.
And so that's what this work is about. Because when you jump into a men's circle and it's a safe place to share, or if you're a woman and you go into a woman's circle, or you just go to a personal development event where there's men and women, all of them are great options, then you actually get to be real. We get to put this ridiculous and like really toxic shame culture and political correctness where everyone's
don't get me started.
When everyone's pretending to have it all together and then point the finger at everyone else, which is just, they don't get to benefit because they're holding on to everything. We actually get to go to a space where we go, because I trust someone that can tell me the bad shit they've done or the intense shit they've done way more.
It's authentic. Than the person. At least it's real. Don't tell me that you're one thing, like just to show me the best sides of you.
Yes.
And like it's just a lie.
It's a lie and it's not trustworthy. So I trust someone more that's like, I cheated on my ex-partner. I feel deeply terrible about it. I did it because I was hurting and
I'm trying to be a better man. I've done I'm coming here so I don't do it again.
Exactly. And I'm coming here because I trust that person more than the person that just thinks that they're better than everyone because they're suppressing the pain that they have. They're suppressing the behavior and they're pretending that they're not behaving in ways that are unhealthy. That's the point of sharing all these things. So if you're listening, whatever it is that you've got, whether it's just you try to tell your friends that you make all this money, but you're actually in tax debt. Yeah. Or you try to pretend you've got this relationship that's going really well, but your sex life's not actually going well because your partner doesn't feel safe with you in the bedroom.
I would like to add something which is the same thing, but just the opposite. If you are fucking crushing it right now, you shouldn't feel any shame as well. Like, I don't think I think a lot of people also, there's a culture where you're not allowed to shine bright because what if someone else isn't shining right now and then they get triggered and it's like, hold on a second, that's theirs to process. Yes. In my opinion. Do you agree to that? Because you've had both sides of the spectrum. You've been someone who's from the external perspective, I don't want to label whether you were or whether you weren't, but from an external perspective, front cover of magazines, driving Ferraris, building in the city, doesn't matter what was going on. Now, I'm not saying that that's what success is, but I'm just saying it gives a perspective that you can't have just by seeing it, but by actually experiencing it.
Yeah, well, so to answer the question, I think people should definitely be able to celebrate their wins.
Yes.
And share
Shouldn't rub it in people's faces. brokey.
But I think there's a different relating experience that I have with, because I've got a lot of friends that are successful with money. I'm still successful with money now.
Yeah.
but I just don't care really to share that. I used to walk into a room and it was the first thing that I'd want to say to people. What do you do?
Yes,
how much?
yes.
What's the size?
I love it when people do that. You can see people, how old are you? And they're thinking, I'm going to see how old they are because if I'm older than them, or what do you do?
Yeah.
It's like a safety
I wanted to
mechanism.
be the youngest, most successful, doing the biggest shit, best vanity metrics. I wanted to create a contrast. Yeah. I wanted to be the best, better than everyone else. I'm better,
Which
you're
is a
worse.
safety mechanism.
Safety mechanism. Yep. And so now though, when I walk into a room, like what I care about in life in the past was success.
Yeah.
Because I felt like that's what I needed to be worthy of love.
Yes.
That's not true. I now care primarily about fulfillment.
Yes.
Which is the quality of my experience.
Yes.
How I feel, not the quality of my results.
Exactly.
And results have an impact on experience, but it's a very small factor. So when I walk in a room full of dudes or whatever now, I'm not necessarily trying to share my wins in a way that would trigger people because I'm not coming from a place where I'm trying to
You're not setting up traps for people to walk into so that then you can tell them about what you just did.
Yeah. I'm excited in my heart for something. If I want to share a win, and I'll be like, guys, I just want to really celebrate myself because I've been working for like 6 months on this relationship
so there's
shit.
the balance of it. There's no shame to share it, but there's also no need to share it unless it feels like something that's alive for you. Is that what you're kind of saying?
Yeah, like like just a place in which it's shared from, like we said earlier in this podcast. So like is different because it's not like it's good or bad to share wins, but it's like if you check why you're sharing the win,
it's underneath. What is that coming from ego? Is it coming from soul? Is it really coming?
Which like that's what I'm saying. There's two different. Are you saying?
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying a lot of times I've noticed. I had this conversation with my brother because one of my mechanisms that I used to use when feeling really uncomfortable in certain situations was 100% that. Going, using whether it was the model, whether it was DJ, whether it was money, whether it was anything, would be like, I don't feel safe to be who I am. I don't feel like I'm enough. And so therefore I feel like I need to share these things with you so that you see me in a certain light, which is very unhealthy, right? And that's like that. But again,
it doesn't make other people feel safe, and it doesn't actually create a nice experience for you as the person that's doing it. So when I was in there going into a room trying to big note myself, I wasn't having a great time.
No,
I was just winning these safety battles and losing them in my head. Sometimes I win, sometimes I lose. I didn't go in there and have a great time and then feel really beautiful and like, fuck yeah, this is an awesome life I'm living.
Yeah.
It was a safety game. It's like I walked in feeling unsafe, trying to reconcile safety by validating myself. It's a shit experience.
Yeah. I can 100% relate to that. Now, I can remember leaving things and going, why the fuck did you say that, you idiot? And then obviously I've done the healing work now, so I don't call myself an idiot. But I mean, like, I think this little narrative here of like, it's not what you do, but how you do it. In my mind, underneath it, what's the energy? Where is it coming from? So you were talking about the relationship piece. We've talked about like obviously success. There's nothing wrong with being, I think, trying to create greatness in your life. You don't need to play small for that. It's just, where is it coming from? Is it coming from trying to prove things to everybody? Which I think that's part of the problem in society, is like what you said. If I become, like in your journey, if I become a millionaire, if I do this, then I'll be loved. But all along, you're actually blocking yourself from love because you're so busy. You're not in your energy of being able to be potentially the type of partner that is going to be able to serve a relationship well. And I think if I'm talking, just going back to like say the podcast, I'm wanting to help men become better fathers, better husbands, better leaders, just better all around society so we can heal and all these different things. Going back to that theme of a lot of people, I think from my experience, and it sounds like your experience too, because they're wounded, that's the only pathway that, in the same way that was only our pathway to share those things in that party, it's all we knew at the time. I think the way that people live their life is the only pathway that they know in how to cope through life. They don't know that there's other ways of doing that. Does that make sense?
Fuck yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, totally. There's nothing wrong. Like I don't look back and think, what a piece of shit that I would go into a room and do all these things.
No, it's just the best. You did the best you knew at the time.
Yeah, exactly. And now that I've got the awareness, I get to do more work. Not so I'm a better person in society. That's just a conduit. It's just
a
an effect.
byproduct.
what I actually get to experience is like a more fulfilling life, which means that I walk around enjoying my life more, which is my primary drive. Now I would have told everyone, I'm doing this, I'm an embodied leader, I'm doing this so I can help other people more, which is true as well. But primarily I'm do this work so I enjoy my life more.
Yeah. So some might say, hey, Ryan, that's selfish. You're only talking about yourself.
Yeah, it is.
Do you feel like it's important? That's what you're choosing for yourself. Do you think generally, if everyone was just focusing on their own garden, like philosophically, that just naturally creates a better byproduct, which has, like, for me, it is important. Like, I'm actually doing this mission on purpose. I understand the difference between really getting attached to wanting that savior mentality. I think that can be unhealthy. It's really important to check that as a coach or as someone who's on a purpose-driven mission, looking at the energy and the reasons why underneath. Do you think that the way that you do it is what most people should be doing in order to live a great life, and so that if you do care about society, obviously I would imagine that you do. So, like, from your question, is that strategic in saying, I think this is the way that we should live? If we focus on our own fulfillment, that naturally we're watering ourselves, then the water also goes to all of the other plants around us.
Yeah, I think that's how it works. And I think that, like,
it's a conscious choice.
It's not because I consciously choose to make my life the most fulfilling. I do things that are in alignment for my highest good primarily.
So to be more like, make myself great again, or make myself great, or make myself fulfilled.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it's like stay in alignment.
Because the reason why I ask this is because I have a slightly different take on it, but I think it's just this different semantics. Where
two sides of the same coin.
I think it's the exact same thing. Like, for me, the way that I see the Make Me Great Again is if I become a better husband, father, and leader, then it's not just what I say, but the embodiment of things. And then naturally I'm just going to
that's what I think as well.
Go into the world. But at the same time, I also can hold the duality of then also going, okay, cool. There's a conscious choice that if I do this, that I feel like in my life that I've got a purpose, and this is going to help that purpose. That's what you also agree, but you just don't explain that way, or you think something different?
I think naturally, like, if you asked,
do you believe in purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's something that makes my life most fulfilling. I think if I focus on supporting myself, it's just that thing. Like, if I fill a cup, and it can overflow and it can go into other people. But also, if I work on myself, then I'm in a state where I'm in my heart, and then everything I touch from that state is more loving and more beautiful for them. So if you asked all the people in my life now that are my friends, that have been my friends for 10, 15 years, is Ryan a better quality friend? Is it a nicer experience to be with him now, or was it a nicer experience to be with him 10 years ago? They will say 100%. It's nice now because I'm more present. I'm like, and I might not be as much of a pleaser. So if they're like, hey, do you want to catch up? And I don't want to, I'll say no.
Oh, fuck you.
But it's not that. It's just like, no,
you can hold a boundary. Go, no, I'm not.
Yeah. And what a quote that I love that I created is that people get triggered. People
quote that I love that I created. I love that.
Something along the lines of people get triggered. People that don't have boundaries get triggered by people that do. Yes. I used to hate it when people would just be like, hey, I didn't feel like it.
My wife brought me boundaries, and I was like codependent. I had zero boundaries, and I people pleased, and I did all that stuff. And you know, I was just like, but don't you think that that's rude and blah, 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 and you're not caring and this and that. And she explained it to me, and I'm like, my experience was still uncomfortable and agitated. But it was like, oh, wow, I can see that she's doing something that is healthier than what I'm doing. Yeah. And I can also reflect back and go, I can see how this is not
because she's grounded and I'm reactive. So there's obviously something that's coming up with me here because she seems fine.
Yeah.
That's been my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely feel like if you're listening to this, if you feel that you need to tap into a bit of, I'm doing this for others, I'm doing this for my wife, I'm doing this for my kids, and that's the leverage that you've got right now, and it feels really congruent to have that, that's beautiful. But what's going to naturally happen over time as you get more and more connected to your heart is that there's going to be a natural just desire to feel the same level of inspiration for your own experience. And you're going to be full that the way that you do serve and the purpose that you do have will naturally come from overflow. It's not that that's bad if you're not doing that. It's not that it's bad if you do no personal development. Everyone, like I never used to in the past.
Yeah.
No one's better. No one's worse. We're just riding the journey, doing the best we can with where we're at. And everyone's naturally going to go on a similar level or journey of evolution of consciousness that will have them more connected to their heart. And it's going to look differently for everyone.
Last thing I just want to say about the no one's better, no one's worse thing. I agree to that 110% in terms of who you are in your heart. And maybe we don't have to agree on everything, but what I have a hard problem with is I think that the reality is I am a better version of myself than I was 10 years ago, and so are you. I'm not saying that that person needs to be shamed. You were doing the best that you could, so was I. But to say that I don't think that anyone's necessarily at the core is worth more or worth less. But I believe, and maybe I can be proven wrong, but I believe that it's important for people to want to do better. And I think I'm not sure if I think I just have a problem with going, okay, no one's better, no one's worse, and everyone can just do what they want to do. But I think a lot of people are hurting people. So if someone's abusing someone right now, the person who's not abusing, I wouldn't say that they're necessarily through that frame better or worse. So I'd say I could clearly say this is a better person than that person in a sense.
I would just say healthy or evolved, like more evolved or less evolved.
Yes.
Like a previous version of me was super manipulative and treated my staff badly. I now don't do that because I treat myself better. That guy was just doing the best that he can. He was less healthy, but I wouldn't say I'm better than him.
Yeah,
we're saying the same thing, but we can also monitor and honor progress that we've had or evolution in our consciousness. I'm more connected to my heart. I can be more healthy in communication.
So it's picking the right words to really illustrate the truth of the situation.
Because the only problem that can come from that is if and I don't know if this happens for you, and it probably does for everyone, including myself, but then they can just naturally leads to more contrast and judgment. Yeah. Because then if you see someone that's acting like a previous evolution of you, then you look at them and you go, oh, that's a previous evolved person. Yes. And for me, that would block me from wanting to connect with a lot of people in my life. I only wanted, like, that's why I stopped doing the men's circle recently, because I was judging people and where they're at. And I'm like, they're not on my level. What does that mean? Yeah. They're not as into the emotional work. They're not growing financially as much. They're not into business. They're not as driven.
Yeah, gotcha.
And therefore, I block my own experience of connection because I separate myself, because it's actually a strategy to disconnect.
I wonder if that's your way of, we'll wrap it up in a second. I wonder if that's
not my alarm for the interview. That's like a check.
My time's up now.
That's a personal development check-in.
I wonder if that's because of the way that you explained to me that you are with that distancing thing. I wonder if that's more prevalent. Prevalent is the right word. More of a personal,
more relevant or supportive for me.
Yeah, more relevant or supportive. Because again, it's one of those things where we've all got different journeys. I don't relate to that as much. I can relate to judging people, but it hasn't usually become from thinking I'm better or worse. I tend to be because of my pain and struggle, I tend to have a lot of compassion for people who are at different levels. I have different patterns that play out in different in different ways. Which is
but then if I check in with you and go, how come you didn't rock up again to the men's circle that we were running when it was so close?
I can tell you. Yeah. I can tell you. So probably a couple of things. First one is I genuinely, some excuses are real, but it's up to you if you want to come over them. So I'll give you the excuse, which was real, and then I'll give you the reason why I didn't come over it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Actually articulate it really well. So first thing, I actually was burning out after those sessions. I was healing my nervous system, and even exercise for me, when I push myself, my body can shut down. I was also, as I shared with you off the podcast, growing 15, 16 different businesses at the time. The way I was offering my coaching was very involved and taking a lot of responsibility for people's growth, which was great because it was made lots of money and we got to help a lot of people, but it put a lot of pressure on me. And my nervous system was getting used to that pressure. So I came wanting to strengthen myself, but then, and as I shared, have more brotherhood, more connection, which I loved and got. But then my ego also pushed myself. I definitely was finding my way through it, but then I did one session and it just fucked me. I mean, I couldn't work for a couple of days. I had brain fog and it was just too much. So after that, then my body tightened up. So I got a couple massages. To cut a long story short, I just thought with all of the other things that was going on in my business, I was doing it to try to help my business and other things as well. And I thought, this is not a thing for now. This is actually making my life worse than it is better. Not because of anything to do with the circle, but to do with just those circumstances. That was the key core reason. And then the second part of that was an incident with Pat, one of the other guys.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a big deal for me, but I felt through the conversation because he called me out, and I felt there was other people saying things and I was the only person that was spoken to. And it just made me feel like on top of the other thing, I'm like, oh, it's kind of not safe for me to be myself. This person doesn't understand me being playful and took it really offense to something that they mustn't understand who I am. And they've obviously gotten triggered by something else about me. That's what I felt. That was my truth. And so it just became like that on top of that. And then that was the main thing. I genuinely loved every single person there, and I loved the contrast. There were people that I spoke to. One guy, he's got some massive real estate company. There were some younger guys there that had nothing. I loved that. Was what I was actually wanting, and I loved it. And I still want to do more of that. If you did it again and it was in Noosa,
I stopped running it myself.
Yeah,
I think the reason that I stopped running it was because I secretly stopped giving myself the value of that support, and I used reasons. Can I share my honest opinion?
Yes, please.
I stopped doing any working out. I was still going and running the workouts. I don't even PT. I don't even do movement coaching, and I was running it so that I could connect with the men, right?
Yeah. You bastard. How dare you want to connect with other men? What's the word? Manipulative.
But this is if I was coaching you and I had to give an honest diagnosis, it'd be that these things were reasons that were actually covering up the fear of connection. Because there's this beautiful thing that's because I did the same thing. My own version of it, and there's this thing that's like the repair is greater than the rupture. If there's a rupture, like in men's work, there's a lot of work that gets done on healthy conflict. If something's conflict, you bring it to the circle, and there's a way to be able to resolve it where no one's right or wrong, but the opinions get shared. You can work through it and
You know what happened to me? It felt like a whining. I'll be just truthful and honestly. It felt like I could not believe that this person was bringing this to me. I've seen Pat since, and he gave me a big hug, and I saw him get married, and I absolutely love it. I don't think it's anything other than that there was some trauma, but for me, it really felt like this isn't me. Meaning, not afraid of conflict. You don't have to love the different tribes and different. When you're trying to find your tribe, it's not that I think I'm better than anyone or doing else, but I was like, I'm searching for my tribe, and I still am, and I'm pushing myself, my comfort zone, things like that. But I was like, in that moment, on top of the other things, I was like, it felt so petty, and I could not believe that we were having this conversation. I was genuinely shocked that it would be misconstrued in that manner. That it almost made me, in that moment, just like, I feel like this is like primary school, high school type scenario. I just was really blown away.
Can I be really honest with it?
Go for it.
And no, I think you're fucking awesome. I think Paddy's awesome. I love both of you.
By the way, I love him. I think he's amazing.
Yeah.
That particular.
But I was there, and he ran it by me before he brought it up with you.
I would have figured that he would have.
And I felt something similar to what he brought up with you.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel like I needed to share it because it wasn't as much of a charge or whatever.
Yes.
But it wasn't a right-wrong thing. It was like he had a trauma thing. You had a safety strategy that caused but the thing underneath all of this, and I hope that this is supportive for the men that are listening as well, is that it can be really easy to tell, because I've done this. The whole point of this is that I ran this men's circle and I shut it down because I started telling myself, this isn't my tribe. Yeah. Exactly what you said. And now my perspective is that I fucking done that my whole life. And I still don't know. You don't have a tribe, right?
I can receive what you're saying. I think there's some truth personally in what you're saying, and I shared with you that there would have been an excuse, and I also shared with you that I'd struggled to make this excuse. So there's definitely some truth to what you're saying, and I don't know at this point. I will reflect on it after this podcast.
Beautiful,
but I think there's some truth to the duality of kind of both things at the same time, where I feel like, yes, maybe was some of that, but I think, and I'm using that as an excuse not to get closer, and that maybe there's some judgment in there of maybe these quantifying others people, my people, because of this.
Yes. That's what I've done.
And that conversation was a trigger for saying, this isn't the way that I like to deal with things. And therefore this might not be my tribe, whatnot. But I also think that it's okay. Like, there's different. You're not going to just be like, okay, every single girl that you're with, this is just me playing out the patterns. No, Sean.
Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not.
For me, Ellis, she's different to the other girls. She is. She's more of my tribe in a sense. Do you know what I'm saying?
She's more aligned for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's.
Yes, I agree with you, dude. Yeah. And you don't currently have a tribe, right?
No.
I have struggled with it too. I'm still building mine.
I'm fully aware that I even realized that because for me, I just didn't make time for people. I literally realized that what would happen with my ex is I would go from flat out just working all the time and not seeing anyone and not going to anything, not investing in any relationships ever. And I'd always have a reason. Either I was always doing business, or I did triathlon. I was starting new projects every couple of years. And I realized that only just a couple of years ago, as I got more safety in my finances, and that wasn't such a big thing for me, that once I kind of ticked that kind of hierarchy box, the Maslow's type of thing of security,
safety,
I was able to kind of transcend up to the next kind of levels and go, oh, wow, and be able to, for the first time, witness why I had been I realized I'd had a lot of trauma in relationships. I had people that held axes to my head and said they were going to kill me in front of other people. I had all sorts of things
that's shepherding for you.
That's shepherding for you. I had people that pressured me. So I guess what I'm saying here is I'm fully aware of I want to say fully, but I'm aware of that pattern. But I think that's where you just got to take some time to become conscious and do some things at that time. In that situation, which we don't have to go all into that, but I think I think it is. Which you're going to win.
It's not the main point.
It's not the main point, but I think that I think there's a lot of people out there. If we just take it towards the tribe piece, well, that sounds a lot better. If we take it towards the tribe piece, I think that's a big thing that's missing. That's why I asked you about the men's work. I think there will be an element of having certain circles that are more aligned than other circles. And I think the only way to do that, do I think you should quit that circle because you have an argument with one person? Probably not. Yeah. As I shared with you, that was a tipping point. The bigger point was just literally I kept burning myself out.
Yeah, but even that, you can just show up to the thing and just work out not hard. You know what I mean? I went because it's, I don't think it's the point. That's the main, and that's okay. But this is a point because I'm not saying, hey, there's anything wrong.
You know what it is? What you said was right. At that time, I remember thinking, this is something I need to do. But right now, that's something I need. For it. I'm not ready for it in the sense that I'm giving every ounce of myself to just cope in the business stuff.
Yeah.
And this is another thing that I've got to kind of cope with. I thought it was going to help. This is something I'm going to have to deal with at some point. And I think there is some validity sometimes to saying, honoring yourself and saying, I'm going to do one thing at a time. So I did the business stuff. Same. Now we're, much better, further along in business and finance, things like that. And so it's like, cool. Like I said to you before, I can't remember if it was off or on the podcast. Now, naturally, I'm feeling intuitively, okay, I'm ready to deal with this right now. And I think you don't need to be in a rush I think when people first start personal development, I've got to fix every single problem, and it's fixing. Now it's more about being unapologetic about the things that I want to do and things that I need in order to thrive, and asking for those things and communicating about them in a healthy way.
Yes.
And then also honoring myself and my wife and my child in the stage in which I do things based off the context of where I'm at and what's required for that season of life.
Beautiful, man. How do you feel about me kind of laying down a little message for guys around brotherhood?
Please do.
Yeah. Thanks for that vulnerability. Yeah. The reason I brought that up was because I think it's a learning point that I also have done.
I don't feel like you're shaming.
Yeah. No.
Here's my chance to get Scotty hit Paddy. Dunk on Scotty. I got him, guys. I got him.
So, because I'm at a point where I have some tribe, but it's still not a fully fledged fucking thing.
Yeah.
And like, it's weird for us as a society to have gone from being
tribal completely
tribes. Like, we live in tribes and we only survive in the tribe.
Two guys that want tribes.
Exactly. To going to being this separate family unit.
Yeah.
But then this biological need to actually be able to connect and thrive socially, relationally with the support of other men. So we have somewhere to be able to express ourselves, clear our consciousness, our mind, and bring that fullness back to our family unit.
That's that full cup you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But also, again, to empty the emotional tank so we don't deploy it, whether it's passive aggressiveness, just frustration at the end of the workday. We can actually bring a full, more loving version of ourselves to our family. Now, as I'm going to give an example that illustrates where we're at as a society. I used to be in entrepreneurs organizations.
And this is in your opinion?
This is a story of something that demonstrates where we're at in society, especially in Australia, with our relationship to culture, community, brotherhood. I was in a men and women organization for entrepreneurs called Entrepreneurs Organization. There's like 12,000 big pins globally in this thing. It's massive. If it made up the GDP of a country with the revenue of the companies of 12,000 people, it would be the 6th largest country in the world. You have to be doing 1.5 million a year minimum to qualify. So I would catch up with these 7 other dudes monthly that did between 8 million and like multi 9 figures. It's like over 100 millions a year in their business, and catch up with them monthly for years. I did this, and that was like an organization or a tribe I was in. Now, we had this update sheet we would do every single month where we had to fill in the real vulnerable, massive up that we've had that our family, friends might not feel comfortable with. Made $1 million this month. Fucking bought myself a Maserati. Go down.
So it's a safe place to not be shamed for your success.
Share the big update in personal, big update in family, big update in community, and big update in business. And we did this as a group, and every single month we all were just, I was in this group like 4 or 5 years ago. We were just confused on what the fuck's this community? Like, we didn't know how to answer it. What do we update in this? We could update family, we could update personal, we could update on, and every month we would come, because it was
nobody, all these successful entrepreneurs, nobody thought to ask.
Well, it was based in an American organization. So in Australia, in America, there's a lot more church community groups. In Australia, we don't have that as prevalent. There's a lot more communal support. But in Australia, we were getting up to this update, and we're like, update on community? Like, what the fuck is that? So like school, our other parent, like, what the fuck do we put in this thing? So we just crossed it out. We didn't even update on it. Wow. But it was used to be considered. So this is where society has moved. It's going less and less and less and less community. Now we're kind of rebounding back and going, fuck, without the community, without that feeling of being able to, because how I feel when I do brotherhood shit is I go with a group of men, we do a bunch of personal development, we fucking bring out the primitive shit that if I did it in the middle of Flinders Street, it would just be like, what the fuck are you doing? Because I'm doing big primal screams, fucking wrestling, fighting, vulnerable shit. This happened to me as a kid. Not quite that, but safe ways to express ourselves in ways that society
without being judged, ways to share aggression and things like that.
And then I would leave sharing this stuff I wouldn't share with anyone else. I'd leave the brotherhood catch up retreat men's circle. And I felt like I was walking through life with 10 men to my left and 10 men to my right. Walking through life like I've got a posse of men that love me and care about me.
Yeah.
And then when I go to do my business, because I felt it, I was in Gold Coast, had a 4-day retreat, facilitating, but also participating, sharing all the vulnerable stuff, doing all the activities. I came back.
Felt bulletproof.
All the business stuff I want to do,
Crushing
easy.
it.
All the relationship stuff, I can lean in, because if I fuck up, I can go back and I can. The men are like, "You got this, brother." Like, or share what's alive for you.
Whether you won, whether you lost, they got your motherfucking back.
Yeah, and it's a feeling in the body.
Yeah,
it's a feeling, and it's just something that for me, I've gone through 31 years doing all this shit.
Yeah, lone wolf in it.
And I would just be like, "This is shit. Like, it's for pussies."
Yeah.
Communities for pussies, brotherhoods for pussies. These are all they're just there because they can't make it themselves. Yeah. That's why they're losers. This is plan B.
Yeah. This is where you go to die if you can't do things yourself.
Exactly.
Which I think is a great point, because I think a lot of men, they don't want to admit that. Like, they like the lone wolf thing, as we've shared, and I think hopefully for the listeners that have illustrated today, it's a protection mechanism.
Yes.
It doesn't make you actually, that's what you're saying, right? You're judging it to serve you.
Yes.
Well, self-sabotage, self-protection, self-service.
But it's self-protection, yes. But it's also self-sabotage in the sense that it's for you.
Yes.
Like, if you get to what I said is, I have a feeling in my body that makes my life better. I'm more fulfilled in my body. In the past, I didn't care about my experience. I will sacrifice everything to get to the end of my life and have the highest scoreboard.
Yes.
Which is a self-sabotage thing. That's putting myself down and sabotaging myself because I didn't love myself deeply. Now I love myself enough to go, if I was going to die in a year, I'm fucking really happy with how I'm living my life. I don't need to prove anything else. I feel fucking good because my experience, not my results, my experience is primary. So that feeling in the body that comes from brotherhood is a feeling, and you're feeling the call for it because you've done enough work now to get to the point where it's a priority, because you're ready for it. That's a fucking, I'm only just getting ready for it too.
Yeah.
Go us.
Awesome, man. Dude, we're yes. High five.
Boom.
Dude, what an epic conversation. Went so deep on some stuff, and then also had we just took it to so many different places. I think this is the really type of thing. For me, I watch, as I shared, a lot of YouTube these days and long form content, Netflix and stuff like that. We're running out of shows. You can only watch so many shows. Like, I still partake in some of those sometimes, but it's like, I thought this was amazing. I think someone's going to chop this up over a couple of nights, 30 minutes each night in bed, or they might just block it, just literally start watching it and just be absolutely riveted. I've had a fantastic time, and I think the permission that we'll be giving a lot of men who either have been a percentage of those people who've been abused, either are in relationships that really don't know what to do, or are looking for circles. I think it's just going to give so many people that kind of permission and to take off the shame layer, which I think you've done a really fantastic job of. So thank you for sharing so vulnerably all of your different experiences and highs and lows. To kind of bring it home, fulfillment for you is the piece to kind of solve, if there is a problem in society. You feel like when we water our own garden, that garden then can, or that cup can overflow to other people. Yeah. That's point number one.
Yes.
Point number two I heard was, point number two I was going to kind of add to that is that a lot of people who aren't doing that, the reason why is because we're going out and trying to get success because that's all we know how to do in order to feel loved. For most people, I mean, that was your experience, but that's also been my experience. That's why I think everything is high achievers.
Yeah, because we're trying to. Our insecurities,
then I'll get that. It's the I'll do the X to get the Y.
Our insecurities are trying to be remedied by achievement, but some other people try to remedy their insecurities by hiding.
Yes.
Some other men try to remedy their things by just pleasing everybody else. Some people do it by trying to be different and unique and artistic.
Yeah.
But they're
I'm so hipster. And so as a result of this, third point is when you do this for long enough, what's going to typically happen, and this is where we have these type of midlife crises or things like this, when you finally, or if you do climb that ladder to success, then you finally realize this isn't what I thought it would be. I mean, you had that experience by the sounds of things. I've had that experience as well, where I got on the runway show, or I got on the podium for the triathlon. I'm like, I literally quit like the next month because like, well, this didn't give me, I thought this was going to give me that thing. It didn't. And then you do that a couple of times and then you go, well, what else is there? And then you go on I went on a personal journey and you went on a personal development journey.
It's awesome you did it so quickly because some people do it their whole lives without checking it. And
that's my point, right? So to bring it home, someone's listening to this, they're like, fuck me, that was just like unbelievable. Don't even know where to start from here, so that we can save them from, or at least encourage them, can't save anyone, but to encourage them to not end up having to wait until the marriage is broken down, the business is, they're in that, for that unfulfilled space. Your top 3 recommendations, what are they? You said before, start with some modality.
Comment to that. I think what you said there is the place in which the problems are going to surface if this work isn't done is always going to be personal.
Yeah.
So it's like you can outrun the business success.
Yes.
You can make the business success happen. You can function in there. You can function with friends to a certain degree. You can function with your health. But the place that's going to be the ultimate leveler where not doing the inner work is going to come up in spades in big form. Relationships and parenting.
Yes.
So I think just because that's the topic.
I shared the parenting piece in a sense, and you obviously shared the relationship
exactly piece. Yeah. And this is where doing the work is you're not going to escape this. It will come out in those situations. But the thing that is important to note, or that I want to mention as well, is like, I'm very driven in business as well. I'm not saying do the inner work do fulfillment, but don't do success.
Go out to the bush and be a yogi and don't also do the other things.
It's not saying, don't sub-success for fulfillment.
Yes.
Because success is a requirement for fulfillment in my perspective.
I agree.
Like I can't just be fulfilled just meditating all day or just hanging out with friends all day. I need a purpose and something that lights my heart on fire, which is doing this.
Yes.
So I'm working hard now.
Which is both going towards the purpose, but the main energy underneath for you that you've found helpful for you is the primary is actually for the fulfillment, and the secondary is that you're creating success, not that you're creating success, and the secondary is fulfillment. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. Yeah. That is right.
Which is what I agree with as well.
Yeah. So just in your head, clicking over and going, hang on, if I really fucking cared about myself,
what would I
would prioritize fulfillment first. And then, because success is going to reach plateaus, limits, when the more that you work, it's actually going to be detrimental in other areas. So this is about the balance, but inevitably the soul and the heart getting into business, mission, etc., being more soul-based, more aligned, that's just going to be a natural byproduct from doing the inner work. You don't even have to focus on it, figure it out.
Yeah.
If you're
it's going to naturally come.
But I don't love my accounting firm. But I don't like my job working as a business manager. What do I do? It's like, don't worry about that. Just keep doing what you're doing and start doing the inner
exploring,
work and let it happen over time.
Don't be in a rush.
Yeah, don't be in a rush. Don't think that you need clarity. That's a trick from the mind to try to
I need clarity, or I need to know exactly how it's going to be. Start exploring.
Exactly. Just so explore. 3 things. Let's just say breath work.
Yeah.
The pre-frame I want to give is it doesn't really matter what you do necessarily, as long as you keep showing up.
Do something and do it consistently, and then you'll be led to the next thing anyway.
Meditation.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for 6.5 years. That's what got me to have awareness into, because I could see things more, because I was more clear and I could see my blind spots.
Your patterns.
Exactly. Breath work, and then inner work and therapy of some kind. It doesn't have to be a therapist. It could be a psychologist. It could be a life coach. It could be trauma-informed inner child work teacher, EMDR, whatever it is. And
it's not necessarily about what or some specific order. Just go with whichever one feels like just the one that you're willing to do and open to doing. And then, but the most important part is just to actually do it. Don't do two things and then as a protection mechanism go, I just didn't like that person, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I had a coach, I'll finish on this. Joel was the actual coach, and I literally said, my only goal for working with him is just to stay. It was a large investment, and in some large investments, including even with you, I had a pattern of expecting some unbelievable breakthrough because I'm paying more. I'm expecting more.
Yes.
And in 2 or 3 occasions, I made commitments to do some work with people and then just judge the shit out of the thing because it wasn't my expectation, and my expectations were out of out of alignment with.
They're probably results based as well versus experience based.
Yeah, but long story short, my only goal for working with Joel, and I wasn't supposed to rhyme, was just to get through the 6 sessions. And the reason why I shared that is because I've been doing personal for 15 years, and that was my goal. That helped me get the best results, meaning, and the best experience and the best shifts was by not having expectations. Like a lot of people go into therapy or breathwork, I want this to solve me, or they do ayahuasca, yes. I want this to solve me and fix me. That, in my opinion, is not the way to go about it. Have a habit-based commitment or habit-based goal rather than a results-based goal, and it'll take a lot of the pressure off. Yeah. To be like, okay, my only goal is to stick with this for the next 12 months. Or if that's too overwhelming, my only goal is to stick with this for the first month. And at the first month, I'm going to set another goal. I'm going to do 2 months. At 2 months, I'm going to do whatever. Or it might not be I'm going to do therapy. I'm just going to do something every week that's off this toolbox menu of things. And then I'm just going to do something every week or every week I'm going to stack on you. Something, but a habit-based commitment.
Yeah. And one thing that's worth pre-framing as well is that your life is going to feel worse before it feels better with this kind of work. It's not like you see
because you're facing things that you haven't been facing.
You're bringing shit to the surface that's really uncomfortable, and it's painful to work with. And so we're used to going, well, I see this HR consultant and my culture in the business goes up, productivity goes up, results go up. I see this sports coach, I kick the football better. I get this money coach, I make more money. I see this guy and I save tax. This is like this. I'm paying this person. I pay this person to bring the shit up that makes me, because if you're doing emotional work for the first time,
you need to feel it to heal it though.
You need to feel it to heal it. And if you haven't felt, if you don't have an experience
spend your entire life avoiding feelings.
Exactly. It's going to be really overwhelming and be like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm paying. I feel shit. I feel uncomfortable. But on the other side of that, doing the work for an extended period of time, you will reach this point where you will be able to relate with your partner, parents, family, kids, amazingly, and you'll feel awesome when you rock up to work, no matter what you're doing, and you'll be able to crush it and enjoy every moment of it.
And to bring this back to your core method, it's the heart. You said, I watched your thing, the heart, something to do with courage. And I think that at the end of the day, this is what it all comes down to. You have to have the courage. It's scary to do this work. It's scary to say, maybe there's a few parts of myself I need to work on. It doesn't make me worse of a person. It just means that I would benefit, and the people around me would benefit. My life would benefit if I did some of the work, but it takes courage, right?
Fuck yeah.
So, I
was just going to say, to wrap it up, like last thing I'll teach is like, the only thing that holds us back in any area of life is fear. Fear. And if it's business, it's like fear of social judgment, fear of doing something and losing money.
Fear of success.
Exactly. Fear in relationships. It's fear of being hurt, fear of being seen, fear of being rejected, especially sexually for men as well. That's a big benefit, by the way. Doing this inner work will massively improve your sex life.
I can attest to that.
Massively. And we all, as men, we and as people, we love sex. So it's like,
well, it's the highest form of intimacy. And because that's the only, how many other people are you going to be having sex with? Not most likely, not that many people. So what I mean is,
I'm allowed 7 in my relationship, not just the one.
Yeah, I think, dude.
So only thing that's going to hold you back is fear. Therefore, the only thing that's going to really be the lever to massively improve things is courage. Because that's the antidote to fear.
Action is the antidote, and to take action, you need courage.
And sometimes taking... Sometimes courage is like courage to feel. Spiritually,
courage to be vulnerable.
Courage to let go.
Courage to ask for help.
Courage... Yeah, exactly.
We just got to get back. Courage this, courage that.
But it's the whole layers of the spectrum. It's not just courage to take big business action, but it's also courage to take big business action.
It's both. Dude, I don't know about you, but I had a great conversation. I really enjoyed this. I feel like it was very powerful, and I'm so grateful for you coming here today, making time. I know that we had some schedule stuff we were trying to work out. We got it done, and
pleasure.
Thanks again for sharing yourself. Guys, if you want to connect with Ryan or find out more about him, the stuff he's doing, or just follow him online and just just sit back and just see what stuff that, modalities. He shares a lot of stuff that he's doing online, not just with the facilitation stuff, but I mean, actually the active things that you're doing in your life too.
Are you cool for me to talk to it?
Yeah,
quickly?
but the only thing is we're going to have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
What I would say is if I'm going to put all of your links under the videos and then people can come and look to anything. If there's anything you want to quickly promote, anything, stuff you got coming up in short, go for it.
The only two things I do is the Art of Courage workshop, which is a 3-day experience where I facilitate deep transformation in all the layers of courage. So it's really intense business growth, etc. But it's also deep feeling and shame work and trauma work, breath work, all the things. And it's fucking powerful. And then online virtual coaching, which is super powerful as well. But what I'd love for people to do, if you've connected with me in any way, is just shoot me a message after this. You can email me, ryan@ryanmagic.com.
Perfect.
Or @TheRyanMagic is my Insta handle. And I'd love to hear if there was something specific that stood out for you, and just to say, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're here right now, then you're fucking winning because you're listening to this. So.
And something obviously called you. If you're watching this, don't think that it's a coincidence. Something's calling you forward. It's my belief system, and this is it's a serendipitous moment. And take for that what you will, and do with it what you will. But
thank you.
You're loved. You're important, and go out and be great.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, brother, and love you guests. Thanks for listening. You.